One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
So Matt, I've been following your Twitter feed for quite a while, and you do a really excellent job, and it's an interesting angle in our industry of really tracking TV schedules for college football. And it's certainly a constant question around the industry prior to the season and even in season, like what time do you think such and such game is going to kick, given the rest of the competition for that slot? How did you start building some of these schedules that in bulk are really interesting to look at? And I shared one this morning via D1 Ticker, a Google Doc that anybody can look at that has every network and every day and every slot that needs to be filled for the upcoming football season, some of which have already been accounted for. But how did you start this look at the industry, and why are you doing it?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. And I got started just kind of as a fan wanting to know when games were on, and then further out, my day job is as a web developer. I wanted to put something behind it, so I created the schedule site. And then from there, ESPN and Fox and CBS all used to put out various press releases saying these are when we're going to have games throughout the year, or these are the games that we've set aside early in the year. And I just wanted to have a place where I could put them all together, make it easy for fans, aggregate it, and be able to say, all right, before we've gotten to the places where we are now, it used to be, well, ABC had 14 or 18 Pac-12 games. And they used to say exactly what weeks they would have them. And you could kind of tie things back because there were appearance counts that certain conferences had to abide to, conferences and networks had to abide to, saying, school X couldn't appear more than 6 times or 9 times on a particular network group. So just to be able to provide that, and then from there, after you get through the first 3 weeks, you have a 12-day selection process that the networks typically adhere to with conferences, with some exceptions. They allow for 6-day picks in some cases. And then they just go through and typically, they slot as they need to, and fans like to know, particularly the ones that are going to the games. It's done for TV purposes, but the fans that are going to these games, they want to have an idea, when's my game going to be played? What tailgating plans am I going to have to make? Am I going to have to book a flight early in the day, late in the day to get in and out of town? Those types of things.
How long have you been doing this?
I think this will be the 11th football season. So since 2005 was the first year of the current site, and then I tracked it for maybe a year prior to that without a website.
So as you noted, the networks don't always put out these types of releases anymore that make it as easy to connect the dots. So how exactly are you doing that?
As best I can through using some of the press releases that they provide with TV deals, sometimes tracking beat writers or regional writers for these conferences that are able to ferret out certain TV details. And in some cases, trying to ascertain that from either a conference or a network representative who can provide that information.
So give us a sense of your perspective, and I know by no means have you ever purported to have sources inside networks that are giving you scoops on deals coming up in terms of TV rights and conference rights, but you have a great sense of the inventory available. So I'm curious of your perspective as we hear a lot about the Big Ten and Fox's deal and a potential ACC network, a potential Big 12 network, et cetera. How would those things impact inventory, and where is there some flexibility within this space that is of interest to you as we talk about deals down the road?
Well, with the Big Ten, for example, if it's going to be 25 football games, and the Big Ten typically does not play conference-controlled games on weeknights, you have 25 on Saturdays. And for Fox, the things that they have to work around in September are their Major League Baseball commitments, and in October, where it's less certain how Major League Baseball postseason will go, and they also have to work around. Typically, they stay out of the UFC realm during football season on the broadcast network. But if you look at Fox Sports 1, the 7 p.m. window, 7 p.m. Eastern time window, for example, is typically closed off. So what could they do possibly? They might have to get away from doing 4-hour telecast windows, maybe cut it down to what seems to be the industry standard of 3 hours and 30 minutes. Fox's UFC deal comes up 2018, I believe, 2017 or 2018. If UFC moved on somewhere, that would free up space. But when you look at Fox Sports 1, it's maybe outside of NASCAR, one of their most consistent draws. As for the Big 12, if you look at the press release for the deals that they reconfigured with ABC and Fox, or Disney and Fox Sports, it seemed to leave a little bit of leeway in the Fox deal because there were certain minimums that they had to hit in terms of games on the broadcast network, games on a national cable channel that are a bit low for the amount of games that Fox, in theory, would have every year, somewhere in the mid-30s. And they may only have to, at minimum, televise somewhere close to 12 on those national channels. Particularly in Fox's case, do they have an appetite of putting sports back on FX, or do they want to build Fox Sports 2? They can't really do much more with FSN, particularly with the Comcast regional networks no longer subscribing, for the most part, to Fox's content. So that those syndicated games on FSN aren't nationally syndicated. They're more focused, and luckily the areas that Fox is in, they can target those at least to the Big 12 areas. Conference USA is a bit of a toss-up, although, as you may have seen, there's a report that ESPN is interested. CUSA seems at times they were hamstrung a little bit by their own digital network, which is a pay network. They have a deal with Sinclair Broadcasting for regionally and locally televised games through Sinclair's American Sports Network, but those games weren't available online, with rare exceptions. So they're trying to bring their brand back up and go from there. I think what the focus is now is how do you deliver your product digitally, and that I'm wondering if that's where, for example, Conference USA is going to be focused. Are they not fed up, but do they realize how hard it was in some cases for people to find their games outside of certain markets or outside of their target markets? Things of that nature. I'm waiting for a conference, and maybe this will happen with the Big 12, or not Big 12, the Big 10. Somebody will look to try to do like some sort of hybrid over-the-top concept where, similar to, let's say, like Fox Soccer to Go, if you're familiar with the product, where Fox aggregates a lot of their soccer rights that they don't show on TV and the product that does make it to TV, and sells that as a separate product. ESPN went with their cricket product, and supposedly they have over-the-top offerings for both MLS and the NBA that they could start that are either still being fleshed out or maybe are closer to reality. I think leagues will start to look at, yeah, we'll put your stuff on TV, but how can I cut you out as the middleman television, and how can I go get my product myself?
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.